There is no intermission. There is no warning. There is no button that you can push that says, hold on, I need a minute. Grief doesn't show up with a schedule, right? Burnout doesn't really give you a heads up. Life just keeps moving, even when you're not okay. You could be in the middle of a heartbreak and still need to show up for work. You can be grieving and you still need to make dinner. You can be completely unraveling inside and you still need to go to the grocery store and make sure you have the stuff for your kids to go to school tomorrow. That's the part that no one tells you about growing up. It's that survival doesn't wait for your emotional readiness. It just requires you to do, right? I've walked through days that I can barely remember because I was too numb to feel and I was too busy to stop. I've, laughed when I was falling apart, and I've answered emails while crying. I've tried to hold it together in public and then come home and collapse, or I let it build up for days and then finally explode. Maybe you've done the same, There's a certain kind of strength that doesn't really get praised. It doesn't look like triumph or winning. It just looks like function. It looks like showing up with a quiet sadness that you can't even explain. It looks like survival without all the spectacle. Because strength isn't always that big comeback. Sometimes it's just brushing your teeth when your whole body says don't. Sometimes it's just replying to a text. Sometimes it's saying I'm tired, and that being enough. You learn to move while bleeding. You live while hurting, and you try to carry your pain in a way that doesn't spill onto everyone you love, everyone around you. And you just keep going. You don't do it because you're unbreakable, but because you've broken and still found a way to kind of breathe through it. And there's no award for that. There's no celebration. And if no one else says it, I see you. You're not weak for feeling heavy. You're strong for still moving. And there's a cost to pushing through everything. When you survive without pause, you stop noticing when you're actually in pain. You stop checking in with yourself. You become so good at appearing okay that eventually people stop asking if you are. And sometimes even you forget to ask. You tell yourself, well, other people have it worse. You should feel grateful. You've made it this far. And those things might be true, but that doesn't mean you're not still hurting. Holding it in is heavy. There's a weight to that, and it's a slow erosion that happens quietly over time. You forget what joy feels like when it's not earned through exhaustion. You forget how to rest without feeling guilty. You forget how to fall apart without hiding it. That's what constant survival does. It turns everything into endurance. Maybe you're in that space right now. Maybe you're doing everything you're supposed to do. Showing up, smiling, working, caring. But underneath that, you feel like you're hanging by a thread. And that thread keeps fraying a little more each day. Here's the worst part though. You don't know how to stop. You don't know how to say, I need help, without feeling like a burden. You don't know how to pause without feeling like the whole world is going to collapse if you do. So you keep going because the world doesn't pause, so neither can you. I want to tell you something though. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to slow down. You are allowed to stop pretending that carrying it all means it's not heavy. Because even if the world doesn't pause for your pain, you still can. You can take one breath. You can carve out one moment of quiet. You can name what you feel even if you don't fix it. You can say, I'm hurting. I'm not okay. I need to rest, and the sky won't fall down. I can't even tell you that it's going to solve anything, but at least it'll remind you that you're still a person underneath all of that survival. You're not just a to-do list. You're not just a role. You're not just a caretaker or a provider or a strong one. You're still you, even when you're struggling. I know it's hard to ask for that kind of space, especially when you spent so long being reliable, being the one who doesn't fall apart, being the one who makes sure that everyone else is okay. But there's nothing noble about self-abandonment. There's no prize for suffering silently. What do you get for that? Sometimes I think, well, if I finally break, everybody will know how much pressure I was under. But I don't have to break to be seen. I don't have to crash to be cared for. I don't have to justify my rest like I often do. It's okay to say I'm moving through something. It's okay to need less noise. It's okay to go unseen for a while you tend to the parts of yourself that need healing. And if that's where you are right now, walking through your life like nothing's wrong, while quietly carrying everything around you, this is me telling you you're not weak. You're not broken. You're not behind. You are human. And just because the world doesn't pause for your pain doesn't mean your pain isn't real. It doesn't mean it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean it doesn't deserve your attention. It doesn't matter if someone else has it worse. Your pain is your pain. Who is anyone else to tell you what your pain is? So you're allowed to stop. You're allowed to breathe. You're allowed to feel it, to name it, to still continue on your own terms. Because maybe strength isn't pushing through everything. Maybe it's allowing yourself to feel it all and keep going anyway. Not numb it out, feel it all. Moving while you're bleeding isn't failure. It is the quiet work of survival, and some days survival is enough.